Right.
Okay, okay. What's up, everybody? So, welcome to another expert interview show. And today we have very special guest to our Voice of Entrepreneurs show live, and where basically we are talking about that how you can grow your audience on Facebook, how you can create a cult and impact the world and make more money. So, but today we have a very special guest, and who is my inspirations towards my ClickFunnels journey, affiliate marketing journey, and so I would like to invite Zeky Ahmad to our show. Welcome, Zeky.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, man.
Cool. So, Zeky, just thank you for having coming to our show, and we're glad to have you. And so everybody is excited now. So, guys, just if you are watching live, just comment hashtag live. If you are watching replay, just comment hashtag replay. Wherever you are watching from YouTube, Facebook, or Facebook page, just comment hashtag live or hashtag replay. And so, Zeky, just quickly just introduce yourself, like how you got started and what do you do, just what everybody is like to know about more about you. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. So I'll try to keep it brief because I do have a long story. I got started in 2012. So it's been almost a decade pretty much. A lot has happened between then and now. But for those who don't already know me, my name is Zeky Ahmad. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I help both people who are selling their own info products, such as coaches, experts, people who sell like courses, things like that, as well as also affiliate marketers build their own highly passionate, what I like to call cult audiences inside of their own Facebook groups, and also utilizing email. So to give you guys a bit of my background and my story of how I got started, like I said, I got started in the entrepreneurship space back in 2012, and there were a lot of different things I tried, like the story that a lot of entrepreneurs have. I failed and just failed and failed for a lot of years. I didn't actually start getting any results online until about 6 years after I started. In 2018 was when I moved into affiliate marketing. So before that, I was doing e-commerce, selling physical products. I had a Shopify store. I had several Shopify stores actually, and I was trying to build that up. And I ended up hitting a point in my journey where I was forced to shut that business down because I had completely ran out of cash that I needed to run the business. I was using Facebook ads. I was putting a lot of money into Facebook ads that I also couldn't afford to spend. And I just got to a point where, I had a lot of debt that I needed to pay off, and I didn't have any more cash to play with. So I had to just straight up shut down the business. And that was the point where, that was mid 2018. So at that point, I had already been trying to build a business for around 6 years, 6.5 years or so. So I was at the point where, I just wanted to give up, and I thought this was the end of the rope. But at the same time, I couldn't really do that because I had responsibilities I had to take care of. I'm the oldest of 5 siblings in my family, and I was, helping out my parents and, making sure things were good at the home, paying our rent and stuff like that. And at the same time, I owed a bunch of money to friends. So I really, I needed to make a lot of money, or enough money to cover all of that. And I didn't have any qualifications that would get me more than a minimum wage paying job, which wouldn't be enough for me to get out of the financial rut I was in. So what I did at that point was, instead of giving up as much as I wanted to give up, I switched from e-commerce and I got into affiliate marketing. And through affiliate marketing, I had a whole journey with that. I started off trying to use Facebook ads a little bit in the beginning and just lost more money. So then eventually I just settled on trying to get it started with organic marketing. And from there, I was able to start making some money. And then 7 months from that point is when I left my job in the beginning of 2019. And then since then, I've just been working for myself. And I've done a lot more stuff since then as well. I still do affiliate stuff, but I've also launched my own software, comment funnels. And now I have my own like info products and stuff that I sell. So that's kind of what the journey looked like for me. And a little bit introduction into what I do, and what I do now, what I focus on really is helping people who are in that same kind of, who are in the same place that I was before, and they're trying to build a business. They're not really getting traction. What was a game changer for me was really building my audience. For those of you who are not inside of my Facebook group, I have a Facebook group that has about 3,800 members. And then I also obviously have my email list, and then I have an audience on YouTube, etc. But building that audience is really what allowed me to build my business to the point where it's been providing me a full-time income since the beginning of 2019, and I've never had to go back to work. So that's what I'm really passionate about. That's what I'm passionate about helping people with, and that's what I do today.
That's awesome. That's awesome introduction, Zeky. I just wanted to share, like, when I got started, like this affiliate marketing in 2020. Back then, I was also referring to the top, like, ClickFunnels Dream Car winners, and they always recommend your name in their, like, lead magnet somewhere, like, and see there's a, if you wanted to grow your Facebook group, just watch Zeky. Zeky, you go to Zeky YouTube channel, join his group, and you can learn so many things. But the thing is, when we got started, like, it took me like 8 months to get my, like, $4,000, right? But the thing is, that first initial phase was like very difficult to get that breakthrough. So for any initial affiliate marketer or any internet marketers, so how do you suggest, like, how they can start growing their followings in internet?
How they can start growing their followings? Well, here's the thing. Obviously, like, the specific mechanics and tactics of how you grow your following are going to change based on what platform you're doing, right? So the way that I grow my audience on YouTube is different than how I grow my audience on Facebook. And if I was to be growing my audience on Instagram, which I'm not really focused on at all currently, but if I was, that would also be different, and TikTok would be different, and whatever, right? But really, what it comes down to, like what I do with my clients, for example, when someone comes in is working with
Voice
me.
got let it slow down.
Can you hear me?
No, it is still slow.
Oh, okay. That's strange. It might be something to do with the internet connection. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep going, and hopefully it
Okay. Yeah, it is just.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. So as I was saying, basically what I do, or what I teach people to grow your audience, regardless of what platform you're going to do, there's a couple key foundations that are really the foundations for your business and your audience growth in general, regardless of what specific platforms you choose and the specific tactics, right? So there's a couple key foundations that you need to have. Now, when someone joins my program and I work with them, the first thing that I walk them through is what I call my cult builders formula. So as I mentioned before, my whole thing and my focus is how do you build an audience that's cult-like, that's passionate, so that even if, because when we're on these platforms like Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or whatever, they could shut you down. Like, my Facebook group could be taken away from me any day, any moment, right? So it's not enough to just build an audience. You need to build an audience that's very passionate, that's very connected with you, that knows your story, that knows who you are, and they want to follow you, so that worst case scenario, if it happened, although it won't happen to most people, but if it did happen, let's say Facebook decided to completely shut me down and shut down my Facebook group. Well, because I've been building that audience and I built a certain reputation with that audience, people are connected with my story, they're connected with me as a person, and I also have them on my email list as well. I can take that audience and I can get them to follow me somewhere else, right? So that's what you want. That's the kind of relationship that you want to build with your audience. Now, in order to do that, it's not just a matter of attracting people to come and follow you on Facebook or inside your group. That's not enough. There's a formula that you need to follow in building an audience that's passionate. And for me, the way that I sum it up, it's 4 parts, and I refer to it as the cult builders formula, but it's 4 parts really. The first part that is the first thing I think people should focus on when they're thinking about growing an audience or growing a business online is conversion, the conversion part of the picture. And I'll talk a little bit more in a second about what I mean when I say that. So the first part is conversion. Second part is indoctrination. I'll also explain that in a second. Then is community, and then visibility. So when I say conversion, what do I mean? Well, when I'm working with somebody and they want to start growing their audience, before we even talk about how to grow their Facebook group, or before we even touch the Facebook group at all, the first thing we start working on is the process or the system that's going to convert people who end up coming into their audience when we start building that audience into actual buyers. Because this is what people do wrong a lot of times. They think there's this philosophy, especially for people who want to become influencers, like, a lot of the youth nowadays want to be big influencers on Instagram or whatever. And they have this idea that if you build a big enough audience and you just start getting people to follow you, you will make money. and you'll be able to sell things to them. But that's not true. I think it was around 2 years ago that it was on the news about this girl. And probably when I say this, a lot of people will recognize this story, but it was big on the news. There was this girl she was an Instagram model, and she had over 2 million followers, and she had not been monetizing that audience. And then it came to the point where she's like, okay, I need to start making money with this. So she partnered up with this brand or these manufacturers to create her own branded clothing line. And the manufacturers, in order to seal that contract and say that we're going to keep producing this your clothing line brand for you, they told her that they want to do a test run, and she needs to promote it to her audience of 2 million plus people and sell 36 shirts. I want you to think about that. What percentage conversion we're talking about? Out of 2 million plus people, all she needed to sell was 36 shirts. You could sell 36 shirts just going around to your neighborhood and the nearby neighborhoods and telling people to buy a shirt, right? But so she only had to sell 36 shirts. Now she had over 2 million followers on Instagram, and she was not able to do that. So this is a big myth that people have, that if you build a big audience, you're just magically going to start making money. Or the people, even in the marketing space, people look at certain influencers or people in their niche that they see that have these big audiences, and they just assume, okay, this person must be making a lot of money. Chances are, if they're an industry leader, then yeah, they're making a lot of money because they actually built their audience the right way. But I'll tell you, a lot of times people build big audiences, and some of the people that I've talked to, people that I've had as clients in the past, or people who've I just had conversations with, come to me and they told me, I have a lot of people following me on, let's say, Facebook, for example. They maxed out their Facebook friends list to 5,000 plus people. They're putting content out there, and even people are engaging with it, but they're not getting any sales. They're not getting any business. Why? Because they approached the conversion side of the picture wrong from the get-go. If you're trying to make money online, you can't just look at audience building as its own thing. It's one piece of the puzzle in the whole the whole machine of growing a business. And that all starts with having your conversion in check. So when I say conversion, I'm talking about having a very strong offer. It starts with your offer. You got to have a really strong offer. You got to know exactly who you're targeting. You're not just trying to sell to everybody. You're trying to get very specific about the kind of people that you're selling to, and you have to have a very clear picture of who those people are, what they're like how they think, so that you know how to speak to them, and you know what to say, how to say it in your content, what kind of offers to put in front of them, and all that kind of stuff. You even know, for example, where to fish for those people. What Facebook groups should you be a part of? Who should you be bringing on, like in interviews like this that you're doing right now, like bringing me on? What experts should you be bringing on? Because their audience is someone who you want to hook into your audience too. Not everybody, just because someone's an expert or has an audience, doesn't necessarily mean they have the right audience for you, right? So that's the first thing that you need to think about, is conversion, the first building block. Once you have the building block of conversion established, the next building block on top of that is what I call indoctrination. And I'm not the first person to call it indoctrination. I like to use the word indoctrination because my whole theme of my brand and everything is about cult building. But in marketing, you probably heard about the concept of indoctrination or an indoctrination sequence, which basically is, if you join my email list today, Sagar, I know that you're on my email list, for example, because you responded to some emails. The first thing that you get from me is immediately I start indoctrinating you into my story, or sharing my story with you, talking about how I got started, the struggles that I went through, what I learned from that, and how I got to where I am now. Why am I doing this? It's very straightforward. It's because when I talk about indoctrination, it all really comes down to one thing, which is getting people connected with you, your story, and your message. So that's why I'm starting off always, every opportunity I have, I try to share my story with people if it's their first interaction with me. Even, for example, in this interview right now, what was the first thing we did? Now, I could have gone way more in depth into my story. Sometimes I do. Sometimes, like, depending on the nature of the conversation or interview we're having, it might be like a half hour really sharing the struggles in depth. Here, I kind of wrapped it up quickly, but I still shared my story. And I'll do that often in my content, even when I'm just in my Facebook group and I'm just doing a random Facebook Live to talk about some random little tiny element within business. I might be talking about problem people have when it comes to content creation or something. And I'll tie it back to my story. I'll talk about, over the past years while I was building my business, here are the struggles that I went through when it came to this issue that I'm talking about today. And here's how I came over it. So here's what I want to share with you guys today. I'm always tying things back to my story. Why? Because I want people to connect with that story. And your story really is one of the things that's going to set you apart from everybody else in your market. So you need to get, like, a mistake that I made, and I'm tying it back to my story now, but this is everything ties back to your story, really, because that's how
connecting it to your story. Correct.
Sorry?
Connecting back to your story, that is what like the audience want. Yeah.
Exactly. And so to do that right now, when we talk about the stories, this is actually a mistake that I made a long time in my journey building online business. For years, I even started getting results before I started using stories as much as I should have, because for a long time I avoided sitting down and actually thinking about, like, what have I gone through in my journey? What does my story actually look like? And I feel like a lot of people do this. They think for a long time I thought that I didn't have a really great story to share, but it was because I didn't sit down and actually think about it and do like a bullet point of, okay, so I got started this year. Here's what happened. Here's the things that I went through, and just like do a brain dump of my story. And then after, come back, and you can use frameworks to package that in a good way. Like, for example, I'm sure a lot of your audience is from kind of the ClickFunnels world and maybe follows Russell Brunson. Yep. They might be familiar with the concept of an epiphany bridge story that he talks about in Expert Secrets. So an epiphany bridge, the epiphany bridge script, or that framework for sharing your story, is a very powerful way to deliver your story. So it's not just a matter of knowing your story, but it's also knowing how to deliver it, because there's certain things you're going to want to touch on, right? Now, for me, for a long time, I thought that I didn't have a story to share, because I didn't like I went through struggles. And if you're familiar with my story, I went through some serious struggles, but I didn't realize how big it is, like how big the stuff I went through was, until I sat down and actually thought about it. Because the way it is like, at least for me, when you're going through everyday life, it's just your life. It's what you're used to. You know what I mean? So you're just kind of accustomed to it. You don't really think in depth about, like, when I look back at it, and even when I got married to my wife, and we had a lot of conversations, and I talked about some of the stuff I went through in this whole journey of entrepreneurship. And when I tell it to her, she's like, wow, like, I can't believe you went through all that stuff, But when I think about it, I don't think about it in that context until you actually sit down and you hash out your story. And it took a long time for me to actually realize the power of this, and to sit down and do it for a very long time. I was building my business without sharing my story with people, and it was and I got results, but it was a handicap. And I feel like a lot of people make that mistake of leaving these important things that are foundations to later on, when they should just do it now. And even if you're not good at telling stories, if you're worried that you're not good at it, just do it imperfectly. It doesn't need to be perfect, because what's going to happen is, by doing it over and over, you're going to get better. You're going to realize what things really connect with people, and it's going to become easier for you. So the indoctrination, this is only a small picture of how much is actually incorporated into this, because when I work with people, there's more stuff we do, but I'm just going to give you a 30,000 foot like bird's eye view of what we're talking about here. So for the indoctrination piece, is basically connecting back to your story, also connecting them to your message. So you want to have a distinct message in the marketplace. And I'm not going to go too in depth here now, because that could be a whole training itself. But what I mean is, if you're saying the same stuff that everybody else is in your market, then there's no reason for people to follow you. You're just like everybody else. You want to be distinct. What I do is, when you start implementing and you start growing your business, or whatever it is, even if you're in a different niche, let's say you're in the health niche or relationships or something, but when you start doing the thing and getting the results that you're trying to lead your audience to, what's naturally going to happen is you're going to make discoveries, and you're going to find things where your take on it, or your approach to it, is different than what other people are seeing in your marketplace. And I'll give an example of that. I was just having a conversation earlier today in Facebook comments about this, but to do with organic marketing. So I built my business through Facebook organic. Now, one thing that people say that you have to do on Facebook organic is, quote unquote, priming your newsfeed, which is to take like maybe a half an hour or whatever time per day, and go through your newsfeed and engage with everything you see. Now, I'm going to say something here that some people hearing this might blow their mind, but in my opinion, you don't have to do that. I rarely ever do that. I don't do that. Well, sometimes I do it, but when I engage on people's content, whether it's in Facebook groups or on my newsfeed, it's not for the purpose of the algorithm. I actually don't care all that much about the algorithm. I do that for building relationships. And so my focus with my organic marketing is a lot of people have this heavy focus on the algorithm. Yes, the algorithm does make a difference and the algorithm is important. But to be honest, when you're talking about like prioritization and comparing the different elements that go into your organic marketing, I could care less about the algorithm. I don't spend much time thinking about the algorithm at all. What I focus on is, number one, creating really good content that has really good hooks, because we have to understand about algorithms, whether it's Facebook's algorithm or YouTube's algorithm or whatever algorithm we're talking about. These algorithms are designed to put good content in front of people and to hold bad content as much as possible. Now, you can spend all of your energy trying to hack the quote unquote hack the algorithms, but if you're not actually creating good content that people want to see, what's going to happen is these little algorithm hacks you do, they might get you results for a little bit, but eventually the smart developers behind Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all these platforms are going to figure out what you're doing, and they're going to tweak the algorithm so that your content doesn't show up anymore. It's the same thing that happens with Google search results. There's been, throughout the history of Google, so many SEO experts that always discover these little hacks or tricks they can use to cheat the algorithm and make their articles rank higher, but then Google always ends up catching on, and then bam, their rankings disappear. So what I focus on instead is how to get genuinely good at my content, and a big part of that also is just having good hooks so you can grab people's attention in the first place, but then the content itself being legitimately good too, and stuff that people want to engage with, and keeping an ear and eye on what my audience engages with so I can produce more of that type of content and putting that out so that I'm working with the algorithm. I'm not trying to beat the algorithm. I'm not trying to cheat the algorithm. I'm doing it with my content. And then the other part of that too is not just focusing on the algorithm, but I'm actually focusing on relationships. That's why, I'll be in Messenger. Sometimes I respond to people's stories and I just start chatting with them. And my goal is not, I'm not just trying to hit as many posts on Facebook as possible with likes or comments so that the algorithm loves me, or getting into people's Messenger so that the algorithm loves me. Like I said, yes, the algorithm helps, and do those things. Don't get me wrong. Those things will help you if you have good content, but they're a waste of time if you don't already have good content. But what I'm going to focus on more because of this is I'm going to focus on the content, and I'm going to focus on actual relationships with humans. Because if I have relationships with people on my Facebook profile, guess what? It doesn't matter anymore so much about the algorithm, because when they see my content, they have that relationship with me. They're going to engage with it anyways. They're going to be more receptive to buy things from me. Why? Because I built a relationship with them. So how this ties back to what I was just saying about your message, this is something that I share, that I believe very strongly, and I share in my message, that I'm like, basically, essentially what I'm saying is forget about the algorithm and start focusing on the actual things that matter, which is the complete opposite of what so many other people who talk about organic marketing are talk about. Their whole thing and everything they talk about is how to take advantage of the algorithm, how to understand the algorithm, how to use the algorithm. I don't care about the algorithm. It's that the algorithm is not the real big needle mover, in my opinion. So that's indoctrination. And then to simply sum up the last two pieces that I talked about of this audience building formula of community and visibility. So community is basically essentially what I did with my Facebook group. And a lot of people don't do this. But you want to have somewhere where you can house your community together, so that it's not just you talking at people, but you're actually building a community where they're coming together, and and now it's a community where you're the leader. That's going to takes your authority and your influence to a whole nother level. There's also a lot of other benefits that you don't think about that creates. Like, for example, there's a lot of people that I've been able to partner with that are very big, that probably would not give me the time of day otherwise, simply because I had that audience of 3,000, 4,000 plus people, around 4,000 people right now in my Facebook group, because I have that audience. Sorry?
You call it as an influence hack? That was the you were talking about?
No, well, I'm not specifically referring to that technique that I mentioned. I mean, we can talk about it in a bit, but what I mean is, like, for example, one thing that I've done many times in my Facebook group is is joint venture partnerships, right? Where I brought in somebody to do a training, and you know, I just introduce them to the group. They do their training. They might sell some kind of product. They pay me a percentage on that. I've been able to partner with people and do deals with people that I would not have been able to do on my own, simply because I have that audience. And that's the power of having a community that people will also come to you with opportunities, because they see that you have this community of people who follow you, who know you, who like you, and all of that stuff. So it gives you a lot of leverage, is my point, right? And just for you, even, it just makes your life easier, because when you build a community, let's say in a Facebook group, it starts to take a life of its own, and it starts growing itself even, right? And then visibility is very simple. It's just it's once you have all those foundations that I just mentioned for your audience building, the last thing you need to do is, obviously, you need to get in front of people now, and you need to do things like this, where I'm doing an interview in front of your audience, or running ads, or, you know, getting in press or whatever. But there needs to be a way that you put yourself out there so that you can hook in and grab the right people to pull into your audience. So these are the 4 parts of the like really that audience building comes down to for me is what do you call it? Conversion, indoctrination, community, and visibility.
That's super awesome. Another thing is like in community building, let's take consideration of Facebook groups, right? So when let's work like we have now 700 plus Facebook members in our group. Now, how can someone just starting out, they can grow from 0 to, let's say, 500 or 1,000 members? What are the like ways that they can attract more members into their group? Actually, yeah.
Yeah, so there's many different ways. Really, here's what I would challenge people to ask themselves. First, you need to get clear on who are the kind of people that you want to attract into your group, right? Assuming that you do know that, and you're very clear on who's your target audience. What you need to ask yourself is, where is your target audience's attention currently? It's just like any time that you're trying to drive traffic to anything, whether you're trying to drive traffic to a lead magnet, to get people into your email list, or in this case, into your Facebook group. The formula is the same. Where's people's attention, and how can you get them there, put yourself in front of them there, and then from there pull them into your Facebook group. So if I give you like practical tips, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Like some of the ways that I grew my Facebook group in the past, and that I currently grow my Facebook group. Well, let's talk about currently some of the things I'm doing. So as you know, I've been focusing more this year on growing my YouTube channel, which I hadn't been focused in the past. So with my YouTube channel, I have some videos that are ranking, and I don't know how many views I get per day, because I haven't looked at the analytics in a while, but it's still early in my journey. But I get anywhere between like 500 to 1,000 views per day, because of certain videos that are ranking, right? So one thing that I've done now recently to help with my audience, with my Facebook group growing efforts, is I started putting the link to my Facebook group inside of the description of those videos, because I know a lot of the people who are watching those videos are not going to read the description, but a good amount of them are going to. And I know that because when they join my Facebook group, I have a question where it says, how did you find this group? And I have people answering that they found it through YouTube. So what I do is I have a call to action in the description that says, hey, I don't remember the exact wording, but because I copy and paste it to every video, and I typed it up a while ago, but it's something along the lines of, if you want to learn how to grow your audience online to build your business, come join my free Facebook group here, and then I have a link. So it's a simple little call to action, but I threw it there because I already had the kind of people that I want to attract into my group. I know are already watching certain videos that I have on YouTube, and I already have that attention. I'm already getting views to those videos every day, so why not just put my group in there? What I've also started doing when we're talking about YouTube is, even in the groups, in the videos themselves, I start mentioning my group. So recently, like about 2 weeks ago, I put this new video on my channel that was talking about how to grow groups, and I gave 10 different ways to grow a Facebook group. And at the end of the video, the last thing I mentioned to them, I'm like, hey, if you like these tips and you want to learn more ways to grow your audience, come join my Facebook group. The link to the group is in the description of this video. So what I started doing is I started putting those hooks into my videos themselves, because I already have attention. And this can be, so YouTube is one example of that. But let's say I was already running ads to a certain offer I had. Well, a simple thing that you can do in that scenario is put a call to action on the thank you page of your funnel for people to join your group. So if you have like a funnel where you're already driving traffic to, why not, as a last step after they've taken you up on the offer, they're on the thank you page, which usually on the thank you page, people just say, hey, thank you, your things, check your email for the thing, and they tell them the next steps. Why not actually have a call to action on there and say, hey, if you want whatever, give them some reason, value proposition. And then, so if you want this, come join my Facebook group at this link, right? So that's just one tip. Another tip, again, and this goes back to, like I said, the key question that you need to answer is where my target audience, where is their attention already, and how can I get myself in front of that? So another answer that might come from that question is what you're doing here right now, which, I mean, that's before you mentioned the whole concept of influence hacking. So this is a technique that I used to grow my Facebook group, and I call it influence hacking. For those who are not familiar with what that is basically it's having regular interviews inside of your group on a weekly basis, maybe even several per week. You're able to handle that, or every 2 weeks, whatever it is you can manage on a consistent basis, and specifically getting people who already have their own audience that is aligned with the audience that you're trying to attract, and bring them on into your Facebook group, let's say, to do interviews with them. And then, of course, ask them also, hey, can you share this with your audience? Can you promote it to your audience? And what that's going to do, I used this early when I was growing my Facebook group before I got to my first 1,000 members. This is one of the key techniques that I used, because by just doing that, I was able to get, each time I did one of these interviews, I got an influx of people joining my Facebook group. Because here's the key thing a lot of people forget to do, is make sure you ask the person who has the audience that you're interviewing to promote it to their audience, so that their audience knows about it. And also make it as easy as possible for them to promote, as in create like a promotional image they can use. Write out like a little blurb or copy for them to use to promote it. What you want to do, this is a little key hack, by the way. Anytime you're trying to get someone who already has influence, who already has their audience, to promote stuff for you, make it ridiculously easy for them. Make them have to do almost no work. That's how you're going to be able to get, because for me, for example, you know, I spend my day doing stuff to grow my business, right? And I have my own business to worry about and to focus on. So if someone is asking me, like, let's say they have me on a virtual summit that they organized and they want me to promote it, if they just ask me to promote it and they don't provide me anything, I might promote it to my audience, but probably the promotion will be very simple. I just might go open my phone and go on my stories quickly and say, hey guys, so I'm going to be on this virtual summit, come join me in such and such Facebook group. And that's that. That was the extent of my promotion, right? Whereas if this person took the time to write out a Facebook post that I can use, and I'll customize it how I want for my audience, but they wrote out the post for me so that I don't have to take the time to write it. They've created like images for my stories, for my Facebook timeline, or even like Zeky Ahmad. I was on his show recently, and one of the things he did is the other day he just messaged me with this little, let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. But he has this graphic from a clip that he created. Here, you see on the camera. So he did, like, he took from our interview and then created this thing, which is like an easy thing. And I'm planning to, I'm going to share this inside of my group with my audience, because he made it ridiculously easy for me to share. And a lot of people don't do that, and they don't realize that the people, like, if you're trying to capitalize on these people who already have an audience, who already have influence and whatnot, chances are they're probably busy already focusing on and doing things to grow their own business. So the easier you can make things for them, the more likely you're going to have them promoting your thing. Another tip that I'll give also, if you're using this influence hacking strategy of like interviewing people, is strive to make your interviews unique. So what I used to do before I would have interviews with any of these influencers is I would actually take like a day or two watching previous interviews they did with other people, watching some of their content, reading about them on their website, going through their profile, and just trying to find things that would be unique that I can bring up. Like that I can ask them about, then other people would not have asked them about in their interviews. Because what that's going to do is, like let's say we're on this interview and I shared something, Sagar was asking me certain questions about some techniques I use, or maybe something to do with my story that nobody ever asked me before, and it was just really interesting, and we had this interesting conversation because of it. I'm going to be so much more likely to share that with my audience now because there's something interesting there that's not what my audience is used to hearing. And I'll tell them that, I shared something in this interview that I've never shared publicly before. So that's, sometimes it's harder said than done to find those stuff. But if you go through their things and actually familiarize yourself with what they have, like if I'm interviewing an author, for example, what I'll try to do is I'll try to actually read their book before having the interview so that I can have things from there and they know also that I did my due diligence. It's going to set you apart from other people, and it's also going to allow you to build a relationship with the people that you interview, which is going to come handy later on down in the future when you've built a relationship with all of these people of influence. So that's another technique. There's a lot of other stuff that I've done. Again, I mean, another thing that I've done, which is kind of similar to this whole influence hacking technique, is organizing a virtual summit. It's basically the same thing, but doing it all in a single day or a single, like 2 or 3 days. And I did that early on when I didn't really have an audience. And by doing a virtual summit, I was able to add between 500 to 1,000 people into my Facebook group, like really quickly in a couple days. So that's, but again, that comes down to doing it the right way, because I've seen so many people later doing virtual summits, but they're just like, for example, they don't do the thing I mentioned about making it easy for people to promote the virtual summit. They miss out on key stuff that would get the results. So they don't end up getting results with it. But those are just some ideas. But again, to bring back to the answer of your question, what you want to ask yourself is the target audience that I want to attract, where are they already? Where does their attention exist already? Whose audiences are they already in? And how can I get myself in front of that attention and then from there with call to action, just bring them back to your Facebook group.
That's super awesome, Ahmed. So I'd like to just give you a follow-up questions for this particular influence hacking techniques, and you said about that making easier from them. Do also ask them to also share their email list, because most of the time, is it recommend to ask them to you can share with your email list?
I do ask them. Here's the thing: they might not. Like I've had people who didn't even share it with their audience on social media, and that's fine. I don't mind that. But this is my philosophy. And it doesn't just apply to this. It applies to life in general. Is if you don't ask people outright for what you want, then don't expect them to give it to you. You know what I mean? Because you can't, like, it's just like when you have a sales message, when you have a sales page or whatever. You need to have a call to action. You need to tell people exactly what you want them to do. You can't just assume that people are going to, on their own, decide to do it. Because I can tell you from myself, if I'm asked, a lot of times I've been asked by people to do interviews for their audience, and many times they don't ask me to promote it. And most of the time, even knowing all the stuff that I just shared with you, most of the time, if they don't ask me to promote it, I don't promote it. Why? Because it doesn't even come to my mind. I'm not even thinking about the fact that I have this interview with them, except for the fact that it's on my calendar. So when it comes to the day of and I look at what I have to do today, I see on my calendar, okay, I have an interview with this person. But I'm not thinking about it a week before that. I'm not thinking about it days before that. I'm thinking about what I have to do that day. So unless the person actually reached out to me and asked me to promote it to my audience, chances are I don't end up promoting it to my audience. So you need to ask straight up for what you want. It's not just in this area, it's in life. There's the quote, I think it's a biblical quote, but there's a quote, ask and you shall receive. That's how it is in life. You gotta ask for what you want.
Yep, that's super awesome. Another thing is, after building all audience, let's say we have a good number of people in our group. Now the thing is, next part is like monetization part. Like let's suppose as an affiliate marketer, like how can someone monetize the group, or any as a course creator, anything like coaching, consulting, whatever. I think you are also doing coaching and started doing coaching stuff. So how you can monetize and promote the product to this particular audience?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it comes down to like promoting a product or selling a product in your group is the same as promoting or selling it on your personal profile or to your email list or to any platform, right? You're going to create content. The content will have calls to actions, and then from the call to action, you get them into your sales process. Now, how that looks for a particular person could be different, because there's different ways to do it. Some of the ways, like I can give you how I monetize my Facebook group. I have several different ways. The primary way that I monetize my Facebook group is through content with calls to actions that get people into Messenger. And because for me, that's my sales process. That's the sales process I like to use, because in Messenger, since also usually most of the stuff I'm selling are higher ticket stuff, I want to have a conversation with people. I want to make sure that it's actually a good fit for them. I don't want to sell people who something's not a good fit for, and then they're not gonna like me anymore, and they're not gonna want to buy from me, and they're gonna have a bad experience. So first off, I want to qualify people and make sure that if I'm selling them something that I checked and that they are actually the right fit and they'll benefit from it. And then after that, I'm going to have a conversation and see, what are the struggles they're going through. That's part of the whole qualification process, but I'm going to figure out what are the struggles they're going through. Let's say this product now is a good fit for them. If they have objections or something, or things they're concerned about, I can address that inside of Messenger, and then they can purchase the product. So that's my primary sales processes through Messenger but it doesn't have to be that way. Like, let's say I'm using for a specific product, my sales process is a funnel that I send them to. Well, I can create, again, it's just creating content inside of my Facebook group that gets them to the point where they're ready to buy, and then I get them from there into the funnel. That's one way to monetize, by the way. If we're talking tactically, because most of what I talk about here is strategic, right? Because if we're going to talk about tactics, that could be like just straight up in-depth training that would be way longer than just this interview itself.
Implementations, please, yeah.
Sorry?
It's all more about like implementations, like getting to a particular, taking to the action level.
Yeah. So bringing back to what I was mentioning though, in terms of like specific tactics for Facebook groups, since that's what we're talking about, content is a primary way I use. Another thing is that a lot of people don't do is, when you have people joining your Facebook groups, there's questions that you can have them answer, right? And what a lot of people don't do, this can actually plug into your sales process. So one of the questions that I have, I don't remember the exact wording off the top of my head, but essentially it's telling people what my specialty is, that my specialty is helping people grow their business and their audience through Facebook groups to the point that they can make a full-time income doing that. And then I ask them, if you're serious, if you have the resources to invest in yourself, do you want me to reach out to you and give you more details? And then they have multiple choice. Either they can say, yes, please send me a private message with more details on this, or no, I'm not interested right now, which is totally fine. But when people are joining my Facebook group from the get-go, before they even interact with content in the Facebook group, I already have people who are saying, yes, they're interested in what I just mentioned, and they want me to reach out to them in Messenger. So then from there, I can just send them a message. We can have a conversation. I can see like what they're doing, what they've got going on, if what I do is a good fit for them. And then from there, maybe they join my program, or maybe I have some other product that's a better fit for them if I'm selling as an affiliate. And that plugs again into that same sales process, right? So by the way, one thing I'm going to mention with this, for those of you who are doing like Messenger based, like what I mentioned, don't be, the person with commission breath that's just desperately trying to sell to everybody. When I'm having these conversations, I'm just having a conversation with people. I'm not necessarily going to sell anything to them. And it doesn't matter if I don't sell anything to them, because at the very least, we get to have some back and forth and establish that relationship. And who knows where that goes in the future. But if you're targeting your audience right, and you're bringing the right kind of people into your group, and you're putting the right kind of offers in front of them, then inevitably some of that will turn into sales naturally. But those are just some of the ways. Those are the primary ways. Like even the question thing, for a long time I wasn't doing it. I was just monetizing straight up through content. But it really comes down to, it's just the same thing as monetizing on any other social media. You're putting content in front of them. The content needs to have a call to action that plugs into your sales message, and then you need to have a good offer for that.
That's awesome. So you have created like software called Comment Funnel. So would you like to share some more about how does that software work, and what is the reason behind you have created that software?
Yeah, for sure. So I launched this software back in 2019. For those who don't know what he's referring to, it's my software Comment Funnels. You can check it out at commentfunnels.com. So basically what it is, it's a Facebook organic marketing software, which the reason I created it, and this will also explain what the software does. The reason I created it was because as I was growing my audience, I got to a point where, I would do a lot of those two-step posts. If you don't know what a two-step post is, sometimes they're referred to as comment ladders or other names, but they're the posts where you say, hey, I've got this little offer, or I got this new thing. If you want it, comment below. And then you get people commenting on it, right?
Hand raise post.
Sorry?
Hand raise post also, people talk about hand raise post.
Yeah, exactly. So you get people commenting on it, and what would happen, and this will happen for you naturally as you keep growing your audience, is sometimes when I had a really good offer, I would get hundreds of people commenting on it, and it got to the point where I just wouldn't be able to get back to all of those people, because either I comment back and I respond to people, and then Facebook tells me you can't leave any more comments, and then I have to wait until I can leave more comments, and then I go do a second round, and then the same thing happens, and then I forget to comment back to everybody. Or what also would happen sometimes is I would respond to everyone, but then that post just keeps getting revived inside of the newsfeed, and there's more people commenting, and then at some random point I'm looking back at the post and I see that there's people who commented like 3 weeks ago who obviously forgot about this offer, who I never responded to. So the problem that creates now is, part of it, I mean, there's two sides of this. One side is obviously I'm leaving money on the table, right? Because there's all these people who are interested in the offer that I never ended up getting back to. And then the other side of it, though, is it hurts the relationship with my audience, because if I'm constantly promising things to them and then they comment and they ask for it and then I don't deliver it, they're going to start to develop this image where it's like, yeah, you know, he never even responds anyways. I don't care to pay attention to his stuff anymore. And I don't want to build that relationship with my audience. So I was looking for a solution to this that wouldn't force me to have to be sitting in front of my computer nonstop and fighting with Facebook's spam filters and whatever to respond to all these comments. So I started looking for a software to fix it. And at the time, this was back in 2019, there was no other software. At least I couldn't find any other software to do it. Now there's other people release their copies of my software and whatever. But back then there was nobody on the market who had a software doing this. And I had went around asking some of my other friends who had big audiences, who I knew had this problem too, because I saw the posts on their profile or in their groups where they didn't respond to a bunch of people. And I asked them, I'm like, hey, like, I see you got this issue too. Do you know of anybody who might have a software that can help us out with this? And everyone I talked to said no, they didn't know about a software. So then I decided to just go ahead and create the software myself. And I created the software that does that. The software still exists till today. People are still using it. We have about 1,000 users now on it. And you can check it out at commentfunnels.com. But that's basically the story behind that. And that's also how I kind of branched out of affiliate marketing. Like I said, I still do affiliate marketing at the same time, but that's how I went from doing just affiliate marketing to also launching my own stuff. Was first with that product, Comment Funnels, and then from there, that's kind of the route I've been going a little bit more down now.
Awesome. That's great, Zeky. And one few last questions I would like to ask. Like everybody is definitely they have a mentor, right? And they keep on investing in themselves. Like, so how do you invest in yourself and learning from the like to upgrade yourself? Because a lot of the time people wanted to grow, they wanted to make money. Yesterday, some people asked me like, Sagar, I want to earn money. I want to earn money like $1,000, $10,000 a month. But the thing is, when it comes to the investment, they just backed out, right? So how do you approach towards your entrepreneur journey?
Yeah, so I mean, one thing I will say, man, is in my entire journey so far, without a shadow of a doubt, the most profitable investments I've ever made have always been the investments that I made into my own education and speeding up my learning journey. And the reason I say that is, like I mentioned, I got started in this space back in 2012. For a lot of years, I didn't get results for most of those years. From 2012 until 2018, I was not making money online. It was in mid 2018 that I had my first $1,000 month, and then started consistently making money. And then by the beginning of 2019, I was able to leave my job and just work full time for myself ever since. So the big difference, the major difference that between when I started making money in 2018 and all of those years before that is, throughout those years, I didn't seek mentorship. Or at least I didn't seek like the right mentorship, and I didn't seek consistent mentorship. I did read a lot of books. I was buying all the marketing books I could get my hands on, mindset books, all that kind of stuff, and personal development, whatever. And I don't regret doing that, because there was a lot of personal development that I needed to go through. I grew up in I grew up in different parts of North America, because I moved around a lot actually when I was a kid, but before I got into business, for my teenage years, from about the age of 13 until when I got into business, which was in my 20s, I was living in one of the poorest parts of my city in Windsor, Ontario, what was the ghetto, right? Everyone who was around me, they had a very broke mentality. They had broke mindsets. They were either working in very low paying dead end jobs. Even when I was young in my early 20s, I was working on farms for less than minimum wage, which was they're paying me under the table so that they didn't have to pay taxes on it, but they were paying me very, very little money. And that's what I was used to. Either people were working in those little wage jobs, or other people around me obviously were also in illegal stuff. These are the kind of people that I was around in my neighborhood. So obviously, like as a young teenage guy, that affected my mentality too, and how I thought about opportunity and how I thought about money and all of that. So there was a lot of growth that I needed to do. And from the age of, I don't remember how old was I so 2012ish, I was like 20, 21. From then until for like years, for the next like 6 years, I was reading a lot of personal growth, a lot of personal development, and that helped in like rewiring my mindset. But while I was trying to build a business, I didn't, throughout those points, I didn't have any mentors. I was trying to figure things out myself, and I didn't get results. It wasn't until when I started actually getting results in affiliate marketing, I had seeked out mentorship. I started by joining some Facebook groups of people who were like dream car winners with ClickFunnels and other people who got results and doing the things that they were sharing in their content, saying to do. I started putting that stuff into practice, which a lot of people also, this is another mistake a lot of people make, is they are inside those Facebook groups. They are consuming content. They are listening to interviews like this one, but they're not actually doing the things that they're told to do. They're getting the dopamine hit, and they're getting those feel good. Because subconsciously, psychologically, by doing this stuff, it's the same as when I was reading those personal development books. For a long time, I wasn't really doing much. I was just reading the books because subconsciously, you get the same like dopamine as if you had done the work. So you convince yourself that you're doing some work, but you're not actually doing any of the work, right? So a lot of people are in those same groups, but for years, and they don't put things into practice. But I started putting the stuff into practice because I was in a desperate situation and I needed to get results. And then, soon as I was able to, I actually joined a program from one of the marketers that I followed at the time. He put together a little mastermind, and I joined it. And I learned things from him that helped me with growing my Facebook group, that helped me with getting results much faster. And if I didn't do that, I don't know if I would have got to that point that I got to in a few months later where I was able to leave my job. And since then, I mean, till today, it's the same thing. I'm always seeking out mentorship in the different things that I'm trying to do. So for example, right now, I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. I bought a course from Anthony Ambrose, who is the guy who manages Dan Henry's YouTube channel. And he also manages YouTube channels for some other big, like 2 Comma Club winners and stuff. Okay. And even for his dad, he helped his dad build his YouTube channel beyond 100,000 subscribers. So this guy has a lot of experience in it. So instead of me trying to figure, like, I know a lot of other people are trying to do YouTube, and they're doing all the wrong things because they don't have a mentor who's actually been there and can shorten their learning curve by telling them, hey, here are the things you need to do. Here are the things you should avoid doing. They're just doing all those things because they're not getting the mentorship, right? So I have him as a mentor. I also have Jacob Karras. I recently invested into his high-end inner circle program so that I can work with him very closely and personally. So now he's built his business beyond 7 figures. Now I have him working with me to help me do the same thing. So it doesn't matter what stage I get to, I'm always going to have mentors, and I'm always going to have people that I'm going to invest in to help me get to that next stage. Now, the thing I will say, because I know people who are listening to this are at different stages in their journey, so maybe you don't have the means right now to invest into having a personal mentor to work with you. That's fine. You can still get mentorship in other ways. You can get mentorship by what I did in the beginning before I joined that marketers mastermind back in like 2018. First, I joined his Facebook group. And I saw the content that he was sharing. Like, he was sharing how-to content. He shared. I remember this one post he had where he'd said how he got to his first $1,000, $1,200 per month through affiliate marketing, and he gave the step-by-step strategy. And it was a very simple thing. and I just followed it. And then that strategy is what helped me get to my first $1,000 in commissions. So I started doing that. Once you get some results, you make some money, reinvest that money back into your education. Because I will say, because I've invested money in different places in my business. I've invested it into education, into paid ads, into all these different stuff. And I will say the thing that has always paid off the most was investing it into my education. Obviously, making sure you're investing it into the right people, because you can get burned. Chances are you will get burned at some point. I've been burned like that. The mastermind that I joined back in 2018 that I just mentioned. So initially that guy helped me out a lot. But what ended up happening months later is he became an alcoholic and he ran off with everybody's money. So so I ended up getting burned. But I'm not mad about it, because I did get value initially that did help me get, build my business. And also at the end of the day, for me to lose a couple, I don't know how much I ended up paying him, because his mastermind at that time, it was a lower end mastermind. It was only $3,000, and I was paying him on a payment plan. So I don't know how much I actually paid him. I maybe paid him like $1,500, $2,000 or something. I don't know, by the time he like disappeared. But big deal. I'm not going crazy that I lost, let's say, $2,000, because think about traditional offline business. How much money people lose trying to start a store or trying to start a brick and mortar
employee.
Exactly. Like people go bankrupt with that. I didn't go bankrupt, and I made more money now. Like I'm not worried about that $2,000 I lost 2 years ago, right? So you might get burned. There's things you can do. There's things I wish I did differently in terms of doing due diligence, looking at the track record of the person who you're trying to invest in, to see that they're actually, they're not a snake oil salesman. But so you do want to do due diligence. But with that said, investing into the right mentors will get you much further than investing into anything else, in my opinion. Later on down the line, yeah, you make that money and you're going to put money into ads, all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying don't do that stuff. But what I'm saying is, time and time again for me, shortening my learning curve by getting the right mentors has always been the biggest ROI.
That's awesome. Even relate to my story, like when I can see that mentors help to remove the blind spot from our journey. And the second thing is, like as Tony Robbins says, proximity is power. That is really, it works. Whenever we work with some big people where we wanted to achieve, it has some power which attract them toward that level.
Yeah.
That is great. Yeah, awesome. I think I've taken more time of you, so I'll just quickly ask you like how people can follow you. Like that is something just so that many people wanted to learn from you, and there are so many comments like, yeah, literally 2020 you didn't earn money. Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome. So how they can follow you in the profile or group you have?
Yeah. So the best way to connect with me is inside of my Facebook group. It's called How to Start a Cult, because that's what I'll help you do. Your own cult of fanatical fans. And you can join it. You can see the link. I don't know if I'm pointing the right direction here on the screen.
Yep.
But it's at startmycult.com. So if you go to startmycult.com, that'll take you to my Facebook group, and then you can join my Facebook group, and then we can connect and we can become best friends, and we can do the kumbaya and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zeky, for taking out time and sharing lots of value to our audience. And we'll be looking forward to coming in upcoming days.
For sure, man.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who's been watching as well.
Yeah. Thanks everybody to joining. And yeah, please share anything you wanted to ask. Yeah, I will help you. Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah. People are saying like that's really awesome. Thanks, Zeky, for all the golden. Yeah, Zeky really shared like lots of golden nuggets, and it was sometimes it was I was thinking like it was a ball bump moment for us. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks everyone.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye bye.